Living the 80/20th way. Work less, worry less, succeed more, enjoy more. Author Richard Koch. Chapter 1. What's the big idea? This rule states that as little as 20% of the effort you put in, you get 80% of the results. And if everyone followed this rule, people would enjoy life more. This rule can occur anywhere, for example. A Canadian bank estimated that only 17% of its customers generated 93% of its profits, and 80% of all books published belong to the pen of 20% of authors. And the proportions don't have to be 80/20. The imbalance can also be 90/10 or 99/1. For example, only 10% of people own 90% of Russia's wealth. Or for example, 1% of people are really super rich. But that doesn't mean that once you know this rule. On the contrary, it is a tool designed to improve the life of each of us. By applying the 80/20th principle, we'll get better results with less energy. Chapter 2. Create more with less. The entire history of mankind and the progress of civilization is about getting more from less. First, people ran through the forests looking for animals, edible plants and berries. Then they domesticated some of the animals, and the plants grew in front of the house, and it was enough to go out in the yard to get food. And then they invented agricultural machinery to increase productivity. Today, in developed countries, agriculture employs only 3% of the labor force, but still produces a huge amount of food. And the big department stores are doing everything they can to encourage people to self-service. They're doing electronic price tags, and they're doing away with salespeople. So at a lower cost, they'll make more profit. That's what getting more with less is all about. If you have people working for you, you can get more with less, provided you can find the 20% most creative and high-performing people. And once you get this ratio, you should not stop, because there is always a way to get more with less, and you should find it. But all the examples given earlier are business examples. Now let's look at how to take this principle into our personal lives. There are many things we do that require a lot of energy, but turn out to be useless. An example is anxiety. If we can do something to avoid trouble, or at least reduce the likelihood of it happening, we should just act and not worry. If we can't do anything about something that has already happened, then worrying in vain will only exacerbate the depressive state, but will do no good. The 80/20 principle allows us to always improve something in our lives, and to do that, we need to ask the question, what would be a much better result for a less energy expenditure? For example, let's say you need to get to the other end of the street as quickly as possible. We could walk, but it would take a lot of time. We could run. It would be faster, but also more tiring. This is the mistake most people make. They strive for more, through more. You can take your bike and get to the end of the street a lot faster than you would if you were running, and you'd use a lot less effort. Always opt for minimum effort and maximum reward. But that doesn't mean that if you're passionate about something, you should give it less effort. When you set yourself a goal, you can work effortlessly and achieve a lot, or you can put your whole soul into something and achieve even more. All the great artists and musicians have been successful because they did what came easily and naturally to them. They worked because they could not imagine themselves without their work. They believed in it and loved it. And even when they were working hard, their labor, compared to the enormity it yields, it's completely economical. The ultimate element of the 80/20 principle is habit. Everything we do for the first time seems incredibly difficult, but the more often we do it, the easier it gets, and there comes a point where it's easier to do it than not to do it. For example, running a 5K for the first time, we die of fatigue at the end. But after a while, we can do it without making a huge effort, and once it becomes a habit, we want to run every day. If we have any bad habits, such as overeating, smoking, or constant irritation, then give them up as soon as possible, otherwise it will be harder and harder to get rid of them. In doing so, you will free up extra time. Chapter 3. We have all the time in the world. There are many examples when brilliant scientists puzzled over a problem, and in the end it was solved quite simply when a person was in a relaxed state. For example, Archimedes had an epiphany when he was taking a bath in peace and quiet. In moments of time, when we're happy or relaxed, we can be struck by a brilliant thought or an idea. But when we are tired and unhappy, only depressing thoughts come into our head, which are useless. Hence, one day of bliss and intoxicating happiness may be worth a lifetime of dull days. Think back to when you were truly happy and what preceded it. What do these periods have in common? In what ways is it possible to multiply that time? If you find that you are only happy 20% of the time, how can you increase that percentage to 40, 60, or 80%? If 80% of your time brings you only 20% of your happiness, can you give up the activities that take up that much time and allocate it to something that makes you truly happy? And if most of the time you are unhappy, then ask yourself, how can I spend less time on those activities that I don't enjoy? Let's take Warren Buffett as an example. He runs the largest and richest conglomerate in America. At the same time, he doesn't work in the sweat of his brow. He has a lot of free time. He makes very few decisions, only the most important ones. Thanks to his calmness and equanimity, his decisions turn out to be right. Chapter 4. Focus on your best 20%. You need to focus on your distinctive and unique qualities. That is, ask yourself, what do you want to be? That is, by narrowing the circle of interests, we deepen and saturate them. By focusing on our best, unique characteristics, we gain more individuality. That is, if you can play the violin, paint and milk cows, choose what you are the best at and what you enjoy doing the most, and devote all your time to it to achieve truly outstanding results. Steven Spielberg, for example, who dreamed of being a filmmaker since he was a kid, he did it day in and day out. That's why he achieved amazing success and results. In order to live the 80-20 principle, follow the following steps. First, focus on the ultimate 80-20th goal. That is, what do you wish to accomplish in your lifetime? And what really matters to you in regards to work, salary, flexible schedule, creativity, or something else? For example, I would like, in the not-too-distant future, to expand the subject matter of books and cover as many as possible, and then maybe hire a person and do a similar format for art books with more advanced animation. That said, I enjoy creativity and self-expression in my work. I also occasionally dabble in programming and modeling, but since that's not part of my main plans, it just needs to be dropped. Second, find the 80-20th path. To do this, figure out what path would you take in a normal case. Then ask yourself, how can you significantly improve on the usual answer by claiming to get more from less? Come up with as many options as you can. If one doesn't work, try a second one. And third, take the 80-20th action. Chapter 5. Relationships the 80-20th way. In today's environment, it is becoming more and more difficult to find and keep love and lasting relationships. And that is why many people choose a large number of low-quality relationships, thus violating the principle of less is more. Many people think that to be truly happy they need more: money, things, friends, relationships, sex with many women, houses, traveling, and much more. And so they worry more, spend more time, attention, and energy to earn it all. But it is only by devoting all of ourselves to the few things that really matter to you, the few people, relationships, and activities, that we are our true selves. So invest most of your time and energy in the relationships that matter most. If we don't limit the number of people who are central to our lives, we can't give our full and sincere attention to anyone. Thus, according to the 80-20 rule, time spent with a child is time well spent for both the child and the family. In order to find out who is truly precious to you, ask yourself whose death, besides family members, would make you feel like you've lost a part of your soul. And even if you have 300 contacts in your address book, it's probably not going to be more than 20 or 30. It is by being with these people that you get 90% of all the pleasure you get from socializing. So devote the bulk of your time to them only. Chapter 6. The Simple, Good Life. The vast majority of your desires lead to nothing more than fleeting happiness. To be truly happy, you must reduce your demands to the few that matter most and maximize your happiness. When a neighbor buys a new car, everyone probably wants to upgrade theirs, even though there's no real reason to do so. We just don't want to fall behind our neighbor. You need to cut off such desires because they won't make us happy. Or if you look in your closet, you'll probably find a lot of clothes that you've only worn once, and only 20% of them you wear all the time, so it's worth it to buy all those clothes. Also, think about what you're aiming for. If you earn any amount of money, but you don't bother yourself, and you spend most of your time spent with your family or vacation on the beach, and you have enough for everything, then why work around the clock, away from family and vacation, and strive to make millions, to eventually come to the same, more time to spend with your family and vacation on the beach? So find your point of happiness where you need to stop. Another example can be given. Imagine you work for a large firm and make over $100,000. And your expenses are also very high, and you need a good car, expensive suits and dinners in expensive restaurants, all to maintain your image. But in your heart of hearts, you want to play on the piano and sculpting. And if, playing the piano and selling your sculptures, you earn 2 times less, and it will be enough for you, because you no longer need to eat in restaurants and buy expensive things. Then you will be much happier, doing your own thing and at the same time expressing yourself. In this case, you will gradually better and better present yourself, therefore, and your income will grow. So find your business and do it. This is the end of the book. Subscribe to the channel, give it a like, hit the bell, and leave any comments. Bye.